Welcome to In the Funnel. My name is Mark Cox. In the Funnel is a group of sales coaches and consultants that help B2B sales teams dramatically improve revenue. Clients come to us when revenue growth is stagnated, or their sales team is not meeting expectations, or they need to recalibrate their sales and go-to-market plan for the upcoming year. Our clients have enjoyed tremendous success working within the funnel, and please hear it straight from them by listening to the testimonial section of this website. What they'll tell you is there's two things that make us unique and different in our space. Number one, we have a process and a methodology. First, for understanding your current state, and then second, for building your sales and go-to-market plan for the upcoming year. The second thing that makes us unique and different is that everybody within the funnel has run a material sales organization in their recent past. We're all practitioners. We don't have any theorists or teachers, and what that means is we can get in front of your sales team and run the next sales meeting, or join them on their next sales call to close your next large prospect. All of us have a passion for professional, disciplined, process-driven sales, and we'd be delighted to talk to you if you're looking to grow revenue for your company. Please feel free to reach out to us through this website at info@inthefunnel.com or by telephone. Thanks for taking the time to watch this.
You know, I think we're trained, we're brought up to be self-reliant. I think that's really what it is. We go to school, you learn to excel in your grades, you learn to be competitive, you get into a good school, and then you get a good job, all that stuff, but it's all one-to-one leverage. That's the problem. And so the weeds, as I mentioned, if you see a dandelion in your lawn, if you see one, it's
There's
not
10,000 of them. Yeah.
Just look up and you'll see hundreds of them. And then all of a sudden you realize my lawn's in trouble. I'm never getting rid of these. Right. So they derive their power from, I would say, collaboration. And so I think if we could talk to us, there are a few things they would say to us. Certainly one of them is you need to team up with the smartest people you know as fast as you can.
Team, welcome to the Selling Well podcast. I'm your host, Mark Cox. You've just heard from Stu Heinecke, and he's an editorial cartoonist for the Wall Street Journal and the author of a couple of great sales books. In fact, his first book, How to Get a Meeting with Anyone, was actually named one of the 64 best sales books of all time. How about that? Today, we're going to talk a little bit about that book and a lot about his newest book, How to Grow Your Business Like a Weed, a complete strategy for unstoppable growth. We have a really fun discussion on this book today. And by the way, it's an interesting analogy because Stu shares his thoughts about some of these attributes and capabilities that you need in professional sales that are very similar to what allows a weed to survive. So first of all, he personifies the weed by saying they have a fierce mindset. Of course, mindset is so critically important in professional sales. He talks about them adhering to a process for growth and being able to adapt to challenges. Of course, that's what we need to do in professional sales. Things change and we've got to change along with them. He does share that you never have one weed in your garden. You're going to have lots of them, hundreds of them. And we talk about the importance of community. More from that topic from In the Funnel and the Selling Well in the future, the importance of community. And one of the other ones we talk about is how to thrive best in a disruptive environment. And boy, anybody in professional sales today knows that the pace of change has been unrelenting and change is a constant. So we're always on disruptive ground is the analogy he makes to a weed. You're going to find that Stu's energy and enthusiasm are absolutely contagious for this conversation. I really enjoyed today's conversation. I'm sure you will too. And if you do, please like and subscribe to the Selling Well podcast because that really matters to us. So thank you. Here's Stu Heinecke. Hey, Stu, welcome to the Selling Well podcast, and thank you so much for joining us today.
Well, I can't believe I get to be here with you today. Thanks for asking me on.
Well, first of all, it's our pleasure. And Stu, I can't believe that I'm getting to interview one of the cartoonists for the Wall Street Journal, who's also written a couple of best-selling books on professional sales. So I got to hear this journey. Tell us a little bit about your journey that's led you to this point of being, a really successful author in professional sales.
Yeah, I mean, if I just told you the sort of the pieces of my journey, you'd think, what is this guy doing? It doesn't make any sense, but it will, I promise. So, my background educationally is in marketing, but then I've always been fascinated with cartoons. I guess it probably started when I was, I don't know, 10, and my brothers and I were sneaking Playboys out of our father's dresser drawers.
We all did that, by the way.
And by the way, I read the articles, there's always a joke about Playboy.
That's
but
right.
No, really, the thing was that, the cartoons in Playboy were spectacular. They were really well done. Hugh Hefner went out and got some of the best cartooning talent in the world to start up his magazine. It was amazing. So, people like Gahan Wilson and Eldon Dedini, if anyone is familiar with either of their work, I'm looking at their work in the magazine saying, who are these guys? How do they do this? Are these people or are they elves? I mean, I was a kid, but who does this? How does this work? Well, so then fast forward, I was, finishing my degree in marketing, and a friend of mine said, I'm taking this class at UCLA Extension School in cartooning, and it's being taught by Eric Teitelbaum, one of the cartoonists from the New Yorker, and then they were one of the guest speakers was Lee Lorenz, who was the cartoon editor at the New Yorker at the time. I'm thinking, God, what I want to be in this class. This is incredible. And he just got me started. I just thought, I'm just going to do it professionally. I'm not in the class, but I'm going to do it. I'm just going to do it on the side. And I started getting published in the LA papers a little bit. And
wow.
And so it started well. Now I joined the Cartoonist Guild, and the Cartoonist Guild sent me an article that they sent it to everyone in the guild. But the article said, by the way, this was from Folio magazine. So it's the magazine for people who publish magazines. And the article was about cartoons, and it was saying, look, if you're not running cartoons in your pages, you're really missing out, because readership surveys are showing that they're the best read and remembered parts of any magazine or newspaper they're in. And I just thought, well, that's an incredible device for marketing then too, if it gets that much attention. I mean, magazines are collective works. Everything is supposed to be memorable and get your attention. And so I started combining them. Started combining that with personalization in direct marketing campaigns. And, everybody I brought it to, all these creative directors were saying, well, do you have any numbers? No, I don't. You're supposed to be creative. Do you not recognize new concepts? Do you not I mean, I don't have test numbers yet, but do you not understand what I'm telling you? And so finally, though, I started breaking through a little bit, and I got 2 assignments. I wanted to do this for magazines anyway. So I got 2 assignments to create test campaigns for Rolling Stone and Bon Appetit. And both of these test campaigns included a cartoon with personalization to the recipients. And both of these test campaigns beat the controls. That's huge. The control is the most effective thing they'd ever put in the mail. And so my first two tries at creating campaigns for magazines, it was like a grand slam home run from a rookie that just walked on the field for the first time.
How interesting, sorry to jump in just to take a pause, but say, listen, there was always this, like all of us, it's almost back to Dan Pink's To Sell Is Human. You're an artist, you're a cartoonist, but you're trying to create the market for what you do. Sounds a lot like what happens today in technology. You're creating and innovating a brand new market. You try and test it yourself for some success. You kick in some doors, but you're not kicking in small doors. You're kicking in Rolling Stone magazine. Pretty sure there's a long lineup of people trying to get into Rolling Stone magazine in those days.
Oh yeah, and Bon Appetit was part of Condé Nast. I don't know if it still is, but yeah, these are big publishers. They're some of the biggest. And so so I I beat their controls. So I thought, okay, this is my entry point for the entire magazine industry. So I put together a little campaign, and it had an 8x10 print of a cartoon about each recipient, and came with a note, and it said, "This is a device I just used to beat the controls for Rolling Stone and Bon Appetit. I think we should put this to the test for your titles." And if we were live with your audience, I'd be saying, "So what do you think I got as a response?" Knowing that, that the pundits were saying 100% response rates are absolutely impossible. And, if you get a 1% response rate in a direct mail campaign, you're doing pretty good. That's kind of a typical number, although there is no typical number, but that's what they used to say. So anyway, if the audience, they'd be guessing, and someone's going to guess, someone's going to be a smart ass and guess 100%, but they'd be a really smart ass, because that's actually what it did. I got through to all of them. I got through to all of them. It's 100% contact rate. This is, just a little campaign to like 24 people, but they were 24 people that could change the scale of everything.
They could change. First of all, they could change your life. The right 24 people, for anybody listening to this, the meetings with those people could change their sales results for the year. And in the right company selling the right type of software, frankly, that changes your life.
It does, because I'll tell you, I was going to say, I got through to all of them. All of them agreed to meet. So it's 100% meeting rate as well. And all of them became clients. It was 100% conversion. All of them became clients. So it was worth millions of dollars, came from a campaign that I spent about $100 on at that time. And it launched my business. So yes, you can reach that. I mean, that's what I'm going to hold up one of my books. That's what this book is all about.
How to get a meeting with anyone. How to get a meeting with anyone. Which was actually ends up being named one of the top 64 sales books, of which year I remember it came out in 2016, but I don't remember when you won that award, but top 64 sales books.
Of all time. That's what it was.
Whoa.
Yeah. So I'll just, I thought, okay, I got through that was amazing. And and it started my business all, but I thought, well, wait a minute, that thing that I did to reach them, that got 100% response rate. I can't even talk. I couldn't talk about it back then, because they would have thought I would have lost all credibility. Well, right. I got 100% response rate. No, come on. You're an amateur then if you're walking around talking about that. But so I couldn't talk about it. And then things got really interesting from there. I started, I thought, well, okay, who else can I reach with these cartoons, these personalized cartoons? And I started reaching presidents and prime ministers and celebrities, and most importantly, really most usefully, C-level executives and just top decision makers easily. And I thought, well, wow, that's how cool. I have a secret weapon.
We got to stop there for a second. You're throwing out things like, I reached out to presidents.
Yeah.
So did you
like we all do?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I've just finished reaching out to the president. Tell us very quickly. Tell us a little bit about that, Stu. That kind of piqued some interest.
Well, I mean, like one of these was I picked up the NHL as a client. This was a wonderful time in my life. It was really crazy. So the NHL was one of my clients, and so we did an invitation to one of their all-star games, and it was a cartoon, personalized cartoon card from the NHL as an invitation. So one of those went to, I'm really dating myself, but haven't I already, just by appearing on camera? So
don't worry, anyway, look at me.
One went to President Reagan, and he said, "Well, I'd really like to have another if you wouldn't mind." And so that was my best invitation of President Reagan. But
it doesn't matter. He responded. That's the most. So you drew another.
We had it. Well, he wanted more. He wanted to frame. He wanted a couple to frame. So, and I went to that, by the way, that particular All-Star game, and I didn't see him there. So,
okay,
we did get his attention.
Holy smokes! Now there's a better than average chance I was watching that particular All-Star game.
Oh, really?
To this point. Yeah, I'm a hockey fanatic. So,
nice.
This podcast, no, I played and all it. Not played my whole life, not professionally, of course, but still play now.
Are you from Canada?
I am from Canada, Stu.
Oh man, well, that makes a lot more sense then. Yeah.
The chances were in your favor on that. So can we just take a pause here for a second? Because
Sure.
I think there's some just really sort of interesting learning points. Their names can escape me, and I'm embarrassed to say this, but there is a couple of thought leaders that focus on entrepreneurs, and they talk about some of the most successful entrepreneurs. There are these models. And one of the things they called out was there's an entrepreneur that's deep and an expert in their field. And then there's entrepreneurs who come into another field, but the fact that they have a clean set of eyes enables them to innovate a little bit more than others. And so this story of you having this artistic ability, having to go out and sell yourself, a la, Daniel Pink, to sell as human, and then creating this one-to-one framework, I think there's a very interesting thing to think about, because you referenced from back in the day, direct mail 1%, and people would push it. Today, if we think of the 300 billion emails that go back and forth every day, that's the number, 300 billion emails that go back and forth. Pre-COVID, 45% of them were spam. So then you think of COVID, and the number of spam skyrockets, and it's one to many, and it's all garbage. It's all about us, nothing about the person we're reaching out to. And the percentages someone will go through to do that, to pollute the entire channel for the 0.001, whatever the number is, it's ridiculous. Instead of saying, these are the 20 people, let's find this incredibly creative way of trying to get a foot in door. And there's no more difficult door to get into than the president of the United States. So there's a bit of a learning. Now, not all of us are artists, but I think we can all get creative. And rather than trying to do 100 garbage emails that nobody's ever going to respond to, think about, how do I learn about that person, the business, the industry, and get creative to earn the right to have that conversation? And boy, did you ever do that.
Well, and it's not just about being creative, but you have to bring value. I mean, it's all the things you would expect. You got to bring value. It's got relevance, and you need to know something about them. I mean, a lot about them. You don't just walk in and say, "Well, tell me about yourself." Then no one has time for that, and why would they take that time? So there's more than just creativity and audacity, but those are big selling points in all of this.
It's all about them.
Yeah.
You've got you've got to earn that right to have that conversation and understand them, their business, their industry, have a point of view as to why you're reaching out and why you think you can help. And then I always like Robert Cialdini's, through influence, one of the key drivers of influence is the theory of reciprocity. It's almost in our DNA that if someone shows that they've done some work and research on us and so on and so forth, we can't help but actually give them something in return. We want to, we do want to, pay it back. Hey, Stu, you look fantastic today. Well, thanks, Mark. You're looking good too. It's almost in our DNA to do that. So Stu, how does this lead to you writing How to Get a Meeting with Anyone? And let's talk a little bit more about some of the key aspects of that before we go to how to grow your business like a weed.
Sure. Well, I was just right there because I was going to say that I felt like, well, isn't this cool? I've got this secret weapon, these cartoons that get me through to almost anyone. But then what really changed was when I started coming across some stories of what other things that people have been doing to get meetings, and I realized, well, hey, obviously I'm not the only one to have this challenge. We all have this challenge throughout life. Think about life. I mean, if we don't connect with people, then our life just doesn't even flourish. It doesn't bloom. So the ability to connect with people and to get meetings with people is really kind of it's a basic building block of a successful life. So I started getting really interested. Well, what are these other stories? What else are people doing? And wow, the world opened up. I mean, there was this shadow form of marketing that no one had a name for. I ended up calling it contact marketing in my first book. But I was talking to all these sales thought leaders and saying, when you absolutely have to break through to someone who's really vitally important to you, how are you doing it? And wow, oh my God, the things people have done, and it's just incredible what they've done. So that's what led to how to get a meeting with anyone. And that was, what an incredible journey of discovery, because, I mentioned I'm trying to think of a couple of examples that would help illustrate this.
Please.
And
Thanks.
one of them, I'm going to tell you the highest response rate that I'm aware of now to contact marketing is somewhere between 300 and 400%. And so how do we understand that number?
Wow.
It becomes this thing that is so compelling. If you send someone something physical, it doesn't always have to be that, but if you send something physical, it's so compelling, so enticing, so audacious that people say, "Look at this thing that this person sent me," and they say, "Well, my gosh, look! You know what? Can I write the person's name down, because I want to get in touch as well. I want to do business with them as well." So you start your campaign reaches out beyond the audience that it was sent to. And so somewhere between 300 and 400% response. Now, the crazier one is there was a startup selling a tongue scraper. So it's a dental supply piece. And they were in business for about a year. They were selling product through YouTube, not commercials, but YouTube videos. They sold about $1 million their first year. And then they said, well, okay, what's next? We got to get into Walmart. That would really change everything for it. That would change our scale completely. And so they did what everyone else does, and they applied. Crowded channels are not good channels.
Exactly.
They're not a good place to waste they're a good place to waste your time, not a good place to spend it or invest it. So, but it wasn't going anywhere. And they decided, actually kind of the young guys in the marketing department decided they'd revolt and they'd do something on their own. So they put together a little Facebook ad, these little tiny thing, they're about that big.
Yeah.
And the Facebook ad had their spokesman for the videos, the YouTube videos, and some sort of Mr. Tongue Scraper or something. Had a giant tongue scraper like a not
the sexiest product out there. Clearly not the sexiest product, but I'm sure there's a good ending coming here.
There is. So the ad said, Walmart employees have bad breath, but if you carry our product, you won't, something like that. Okay. So the ad went out. Now, the thing is that they targeted it to the Bentonville, Arkansas zip code. I've forgotten what it is, but there's a zip code for their headquarters. So it was just and certain ranges for education and age. They were targeting the Walmart headquarters. And so 2 days later, they got a call from it was either the communications department or the legal department. I think it was legal department. They're saying, "Are you the ones behind this ad?" "Yeah, we are. Would you please take it down?" "Oh yeah, of course we would." And then they're saying, "Oh my God, did you run this nationally?" "No, we ran it just to your Bentonville, Arkansas headquarters." They're saying, "Really, you know how to do that, huh? You're pretty sharp digital marketers, aren't you?" "Yeah, we are pretty sharp." Well, before they knew it, they were introduced to the dental products buyer, and the buyer said, "Can you support a?" I think it was $1.5 million order. So it's 750,000 units.
Wow.
They're going to roll it out throughout the I think it's 6,600 stores in the Walmart network. And so I was interviewing the former CEO about the story. And I said, well, so, okay, you just got a $1.5 million order. And with that, you broke through, you're now suddenly being rolled out in Walmart. What did that do to the valuation of the company? And he said, I think when we went in, we had a $2 million valuation. When I came out of that phone call, we had a $20 million valuation.
Wow. So
if you take all those things into account and then they spent $28 on the ad, that was a 69,500,000% ROI. So those are the two records that most that I've seen so far of all of these really crazy things that people have done. Actually, not always crazy, but just crazy, creative, and audacious, really. Just amazing levels of that.
Yeah. And Stu, I think what's really important here to start to think about is 1 in 9 people, in a professional sales job in the US. And that excludes everybody who doesn't have the term sales in their title. So lawyers, accountants, coaches, consultants, all those people sell for a living, but they don't have sales in their title. Even still, 1 in 9. There are so many people vying for the buyer's attention today. You do have to figure out this way of standing out. And the same
Yeah.
old email and the same ghosting on the phone and so on and so on and so forth. You have to be more intelligent than that. And by the way, I think this is better for everybody anyway, because I don't know how professional we feel when generic bump is being automated and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of emails. And then even sometimes there's a little bit of trickery with that first conversation. That's not what I want to do as a professional salesperson. I think the idea here is, hey, certain industries, I may not have thousands of buyers or tens of thousands of buyers. I might have hundreds. So I'm going to be professionally persistent, but I can get creative and kind of earn the right for that first meeting. And then I have to make it count. But it's maintaining that creativity and standing out. Frankly, I think even something, many of these sales enablement technologies are fantastic, but the problem is once somebody's using it, everybody's using it, and they become a little bit of routine. But the first time somebody sent an effective video in an email, that was animated with somebody saying, "Hey, Stu, how you doing?" I think that got opened.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So you can stand out until people still don't use video enough, and places like Vidyard and BombBomb, those are where you want to go for that. But so you've had this amazing amazing journey, and then along the way you develop these core skills of marketing and sales to get in the door. Hence, one of the reasons your book was named one of the top 64 books of all time in professional sales. That's a big deal. So congratulations.
I know it is. That's amazing.
I've read 200 at least of those books out there that we're buying for that spot. So congratulations. What an amazing big deal.
Thank you.
So let's lead over to the new book, How to Grow Your Business Like a Weed, a complete strategy for unstoppable growth.
Yeah. Yeah.
How did we get to this point of a weed, growing your business in a weed? How'd you land here, and what prompted this book?
Yeah, and then all the cartooning, all this, it still doesn't make sense yet, but it'll make sense now. So everybody knows what it means to grow like a weed. We have that expression throughout the world. And I happened to be driving down the Santa Monica Freeway, and I noticed this dandelion growing from a crack in the concrete median. And there's a lot of concrete and rushing tires. There's no place for a plant to take root. And so on the one hand, you think, I've seen that a million times, and you tune it out completely because we tune out all the weeds. But that one time it really stood out to me because I was thinking, look at that little happy dandelion. It looks like it's kind of bouncing around in turbulence, and it has those happy yellow flowers and geodesic seed pods, and the seeds are flying around, and it just looked like it's happily running its process. I thought, how's it doing that? How did it get there? Well, we know how it got there. When those seeds, they fly around and they probe every possible opportunity to take root. They're not like acorns or pine cones that just drop. Right. These have an unfair advantage built into it. And so we're getting there. So it caused me to wonder, what is it about weeds that allows them to pull this off? Because you don't see apple trees growing from cracks in the middle of the freeway, or let's say petunias, or almost any. All you see, the only ones you see are weeds. So what is it about weeds that makes them so special? Do they have a unified model that they all follow? And it turns, and if they do, is it something that we can apply to our businesses? That was all like, boop, that all came into my head as I was driving down the freeway. I'm glad, I'm lucky I didn't crash. Because
while you were thinking about this happy,
it was an exciting drive.
this happy weed. And so you're asking yourself this question, is there something about them? And clearly there is, because
there is.
What is there about the weed that we make that analogy to sales growth?
Well, I'm going to say though that not only is it applicable to our business? It is, but I think it's actually the theory of growing anything. So, or the theory of everything about growing anything. That's a big one. That's huge. So, here's what weeds do. They leverage a fiercely expansive mindset, and unfair advantages against collective scale, and they do it according to a process that is millions of years old, but able to adapt immediately to challenges. And the interesting thing about their process is that it's their evolution. It's in their DNA. It's like a program being run by a computer. They just run it aggressively. They don't have to be trained. We do, but they don't have to be trained. That doesn't have to be explained. It's just part of their being, and they run it very, very effectively and aggressively. But that's how they do it. But there's also sort of the nature of weeds. Weeds deal with what is. We don't. Generally, we don't. Our emotions get in the way. It's really hard to do that.
Let's talk about
we don't even
that.
want to know what the facts are. You know, we want to have our own truth. All this stuff. Weeds just deal with what is. And again, they never do anything without an unfair advantage. They never do anything alone. It's always at scale. And they always focus on what makes them win, their process. And finally, they thrive best in disrupted ground. And by that, I mean, all of the mechanisms and all of this together is so effective that when they encounter disrupted ground, they're prepared. It just works. Then they spread even faster, but they're not doing anything differently. And I just love that last part, because if this enables them to thrive best in disrupted ground, well, what are we doing all the time when we go through pandemics and recessions? And so we're always in disrupted ground. So this strategy, this model is, I think, the theory of everything about growing anything. You know, I was going to say, I was going to make this all make sense, you know, and I didn't even mention that early in my career, I was also mentored by some of the top cartoonists in the world, because I brought them into my agency. And this was an amazing thing. And something I had cartoons. I had my cartoons published, not quite so much lately, but in the Wall Street Journal. That reads 2.1 million readers. All those things are really interesting devices. None of it really fits together until you realize, and I realized this very, very early on, that when I was creating those direct mail campaigns with the personalized cartoons, and I had this special advantage that was built into it, because it was the cartoons. The cartoons were going to do in the mailings, or in the stack of mail, what they do in magazines. They stand out. People love them. They clip them out. They keep them on their refrigerator doors, all that stuff. What I was really doing was I was creating unfair advantages for my clients. It fit directly into the weeds model. And my ability to be able to do that, my background, the fact that I mentored with, I was mentored by several of the world's best cartoonists. It caused me to become a real cartoonist as well. That's an unfair advantage as well. The fact that I was able to create campaigns that helped these big direct marketers get incremental increases in response while spending less. Those are new unfair advantages. The fact that I'm able to provide campaigns now to help sales teams break through to their top accounts, that's an unfair advantage for me. But it's also, I think the best unfair advantage we can have is the ability to confer unfair advantages on our clients. Those are all unfair advantages. It fits directly into the weeds model. It's directly part of it. And that's what it's all been about. I've been creating unfair advantages. I didn't realize all that, but I've been creating unfair advantages for my clients and for myself. And that is what has allowed me to grow.
So does
that all make sense suddenly?
Now that the dots are starting to get connected,
yeah.
I'd like to drill down a little bit, if I can, Stu, on a few things here. But so first of all, it's all just so incredibly interesting. So this path and this journey and all of those things, and with some of the things you've accomplished here, it wouldn't be unreasonable for me to be talking, to somebody who's really a know-it-all, because I don't think there's too many people out there that have actually initiated a meeting with the President of the United States.
I'm just saying even contact,
Yeah. But clearly, just given what you've talked about and the number of mentors you had in your business and the way you approach things, you're actually a learn-it-all. You're still, crazy curious about everything. And you were always trying to find out other things from other people. And to us today in professional sales, I think that, first of all, I think that, innate curiosity is absolutely critical. And then that growth mindset is super important, because in today's world, as you say, there's so much change that if you think what you did before is going to keep being successful in the future, you are in trouble in professional sales today. And it's great, Stu. What they do is with Gardner and others, it started with a company called CSO Insights. They used to do research on what's going on with the top sales leaders in the US. And they always had a very good sample size, like a few thousand. And it's been like 12, 15 years that the number one issue that the sales leader keeps calling out is, I have to deal with too much change. Now, think 15 years ago, they start saying it. Then we have things like COVID, boom, boom, boom. It's just unrelenting. There's 6,000 products in the tech stack right now. The change is unrelenting, but you have that opportunity, as you point out, to thrive even on, disruptive ground. Like you can win during chaos. There's opportunity in chaos. And I think that's such a great thing to call out. During COVID, many companies and many sales organizations absolutely knocked the ball out of the park. Like best year ever. And so a lot of them, actually, many of them just did amazingly well. You talked about these other things about a weed. Tell us about the never alone piece. I'm not sure I got all of that, but there was that component you talked about. Well, what's that one again?
Well, I was going to say that we're starting to put together these summits that I guess I should. Anyway, we put together these summits to apply weed strategy to our businesses. And what's really, really interesting is that, I think we're trained, we're brought up to be self-reliant. I think that's really what it is. We go to school, you learn to excel in your grades, you learn to be competitive, you get into a good school, and then you get a good job, all that stuff, but it's all one-to-one leverage. That's the problem. And so the weeds, as I mentioned, if you see a dandelion in your lawn, if you see one, there's not
10,000 of them. Yeah.
Just look up and you'll see hundreds of them. And then all of a sudden you realize my lawn's in trouble. I'm never getting rid of these. Right. So they derive their power from, I would say, collaboration. And so I think if weeds could talk to us, there are a few things they would say to us. Certainly one of them is, you need to team up with the smartest people you know as fast as you can. And so I've been doing that. I've been applying weed strategy to my book, and I should hold that one up as well. So
please do, yeah.
How to grow your business like a weed. So I've been applying weed strategy to grow that and to grow my business, and that is showing up in these really fascinating, radical forms of collaboration. So one of those is I started a new award called the Total Weed Award. So if we're talking and I call you a total weed, it's a big, big compliment, by the way. So what in the book, I promised that I would start this new award to recognize and celebrate weed-like growth among entrepreneurs and startups, really just other companies. But and so I was really, really fortunate. It's another form of collaboration. I was really fortunate to have the executive director, Nicola Corzine of the Nasdaq Entrepreneurial Center, write the foreword to that book. I mean, that was incredible. So after the book came out, I was talking to her and I said, Nicola, I promised to start this new award called the Total Weed Award. And I'm just wondering, could we collaborate? Could the Nasdaq Entrepreneurial Center become the home of the award? She said, yes. I almost fell over. It's like, whoa, this is incredible. What a great collaborator to have. Yeah. And so what we on that phone call, we realized, well, okay, good. This becomes, we'll sell sponsorship against it because they have sponsorship. 100% of that sponsorship, all of the money goes to the center, not me. This becomes a fundraiser for them. That's a good thing as a collaboration. And then we're going to get a media partner involved, and that'll be interesting from a number of standpoints. I think all of this is a great fodder for moving this forward as a worldwide this movement about growth. So everybody knows what it means to grow like a weed. Here's what it actually means, and here's the model, and here's how we can actually apply it to our businesses. And good God, when you do it, geez, your business goes nuts. it just goes nuts, and that's what's happening. It's, I mean, we just launched the award last month. The next year when we have it, as the weeds are coming out, I hope we're going to have it at the Nasdaq building in Times Square. There are all kinds of really crazy things we could do because of this partnership, because of this collaboration, and then
put
the
them
other
together, put them together, and we'll be there.
Yeah,
I would
absolutely.
Like to, yeah, I'd just like to call out you talked about the partnership.
Yeah.
As one form of never alone. But I do actually believe that there's huge value in a sales organization being aligned. I think isolation is a huge problem, Stu, in professional sales.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I think it's one of the things that leads to a higher than average incident of mental health issues in professional sales. It feels lonely. You feel like it's all on you and you're out there on your own. And I think there is this strength when some of the sales teams listening today start to think about, if we're aligned on things like our go-to-market model and the way we communicate our value proposition to the market and the professionalism which we pursue the market, it becomes accretive. So if I'm doing great things in my territory in New York City and somebody's doing fantastic things in Chicago and so on and so forth, these things start to become exponential and grow and build. But if I have 5, 7, 10 people all communicating our value proposition differently, someone's really focused on solving customer problems, other folks are, product oriented, we just confuse the marketplace. So I think there is this collaboration, and anybody who's been on a good team here understands, athletically, whether it's riding your bike on a Peloton or being on a hockey team, the team can be much greater than the sum of the parts.
Yeah.
If you have the right team. Right?
And I should just point out that this is leading. I don't know if this is the term that I'm going to stick with, but right now I'm calling it radical collaboration, and I think this actually could have a big impact in sales and B2B sales. Because one of the things that I'm doing is I'm putting together these weekend growth strategy summits with collaborators. It's not interesting if it's just me doing it. But when I team up with, let's say, Mark Hunter is one of them. So Mark is a famous sales book writer
on the show.
and speaker.
We know Mark. I talked to Mark last
show.
Friday. I spoke to Mark.
Oh my God, really? Wow. Well, so so the thing is, Mark and I both write books, and I guess we could be one way of looking at it is we could be saying, well, we're competitors. We shouldn't be talking. We shouldn't be doing anything. But that's not the way we see it, and luckily that's not the way. It doesn't seem like any authors see it this way. We collaborate a lot, and so I guess we could. I don't know. We all write books, and we're competing for readers' headspace and sales, but on the other hand, we strengthen each other when we collaborate. It's really just amazing. And so I just wonder, I'm the people I get to collaborate with for these growth summits. They're going to be happening all over the world, Bora Bora and Morocco and Iceland and Salzburg. That will be with Gerhard Schwantner, and there are all kinds of really crazy places that we're going to be doing these, and they're just small groups. And they're going to walk away with these incredible growth plans because of this. So, all of this. I mean, none of this would have happened if I wasn't following weed strategy. Now, I just wonder how that might, because I just haven't applied it to sales really per se. It's more growing a business from a strategic standpoint and a $30,000 foot level. Yeah. Yeah. But I wonder, I've got to think that this would also be a useful strategy for growing sales and for sales reps.
Yeah,
to do this, because who could they collaborate with? To suddenly reach new customer base and so on?
It's everyone, Stu, but I think there's a really important thing to delineate here. So we also believe we have an abundance mindset at In the Funnel. And everybody you keep naming, by the way, they've been guests on our show. So Gerhard's organization put us on their list of top sales consultants.
I saw that. I noticed that. Yeah.
Thanks for
congratulations.
Doing that. And Mark Hunter, we were talking to Mark. He's been on the show maybe 2 years ago, but I had a nice conversation with Mark. I think this abundance mindset says there's lots of people that we can partner with, but the starting point is the end client better off if you partner? That's for us always the kind of core value. Let's not worry about Stu and let's not worry about Mark Cox. Let's worry about the client. Are they better off? And so to me, I absolutely think we have lots of these kinds of partnerships, and professional salespeople can do the same thing. If they're going in and they're working with their most important clients and they're really understanding that business and the objectives and the challenges, the opportunities, and they have value and insight to bring to the table, then the idea of collaboration is to say, I'm trying to help my client succeed. Whether or not that's a sale for me is a different conversation. So if they have a need and I can't solve it, but I know because I'm deep in my industry, someone else, I'm going to bring somebody else to the table. And that may not necessarily mean money in my pocket. And that's not my goal. My goal is to help my client. Because if I take that approach and they know that's the approach I'm going to take, over time, I'm going to be just fine. So we have a lot of these, we're having a lot of these conversations, Stu, because we also have an academy. We have an online learning academy. And we've recently come to this epiphany that our clients would be better off leveraging our content, but also leveraging the content of other great thought leaders. So we're going to get other people to put their content in our online academy. And so because the idea was, let's not worry about anything except helping a client. But if we had the world's best, coaching or mindset coach, or somebody who's an expert on LinkedIn, or somebody who's an expert, on scaling wealth management company, all of these things go into our sales academy, then our end clients are going to be better off. And so I love this idea of partnering and collaboration, both for us, even in this conversation, but also professional salespeople. Figure out ways of helping your client, whether it's a product or service you have or not.
We were talking about Mark and Gerhard, with all of these collaborations, and about will the customer be better off as a result of the collaboration. And I think that this becomes a huge synergistic effect, because when Mark and I team up, or Andy and I are going to do it as well. But so when we're talking about sales, you and I might, who knows, maybe we'll collaborate after this.
You bet. Absolutely.
But sales is, when I put that in, or I should say the weed strategy, the weed model gives us a framework to give context, growth context to anything that we do, because we're all looking for ways to give our clients, for example, new unfair advantages. I mean, that's, I think, isn't that the reason we sell almost? And so it gives what all of these sales authors do a growth context to what they do. I mean, sales is fuel for growth. You can't grow without sales. And so just the combining of our IP and our experiences are, I mean, when I do this with Gerhard, Gerhard he's a real proponent of many things, but certainly of mindset, especially mindset. Yes. Can't wait to do that with him. Because mindset's a huge part of this. And our minds are what create this new reality. And if we give up, that reality is snuffed out. Our mindset is huge. It's such a huge factor, but Gerhard takes it. I don't know what we'll do. I don't know. Maybe we'll go skydiving together. I don't know what we'll do, but we'll go to great lengths to impress upon people that our mindsets are magic. And
well, you did in the book too, by the way. So first of all, we love Gerhard, and like you, his energy and enthusiasm is absolutely contagious. So like you feel better after having a conversation with him. But correct me if I'm wrong, Stu, don't you talk about the 6 characteristics of the weed mindset?
Yeah, that's true. I've left a few out, I realized afterward, but yeah, so optimism, odd to think that a weed is optimistic, but the thing is, it's odd to think that a weed has a mindset at all. They don't have brains, but their mindset is evident. You just watch it and it's evident in their actions. And so they're optimistic. They are I'll come back to that. They're persistent, they're aggressive and urgent and adaptive and resilient. And then let's come back to optimistic. When we're optimistic, we operate at a much higher level, don't we? I mean, we can't wait to get these things done, get the things done that we're working on because we're so excited about it. So I doubt the weeds are excited about anything, but they give off this, they operate the same way we do when we're feeling optimistic. So in that sense, they're optimistic.
Well, all of these, everything you've talked about, this weed mindset, these are all the qualities we're looking for in professional salespeople. They are.
Total weeds. I think you're looking for total weeds.
We're looking for total weeds in professional sales. And first of all,
we're going to have to add a category to the Total Weed Award.
Recruiting for weeds. Interviewing for weeds. Sales interviewing for weeds.
Yeah.
It's such a nice, by the way, that's why it's such kind of a fun analogy that, sort of stands out. But I've never met a pessimistic person. And by the way, with no judgment, but I've just never met a pessimistic person who over time has been successful in professional sales. This leads to our issue with sales forecasting, frankly, because our salespeople have to be optimistic. To exist in this kind of environment, you absolutely have to be an optimism. Sometimes cognitive bias or that optimism blinds them to realities as to where they are in a particular deal and the likelihood of moving forward successfully, which is why you need effective sales coaching and management for a second or third set of eyes to help them see some things, only for their own benefit. But I'm never concerned when people are overly optimistic because it's a survival skill in professional sales. It's a survival skill. I like the way you positioned it for a week. You have to be.
It is. Although they're optimistic, I would say that overall, when their nature again is that they deal with what is. We need to know what is and then deal with it effectively. That's really what it is. So there is a lot of optimism in that because you still feel like I have agency over what I'm going to do and what I might be able to change here what I'm going to change. I have agency over that, but I need to know what it is. We need to steer. We need to be able to see in order to steer a course. And so that's really, I think that's sort of the overriding thing is that they deal with a few things. They're just natural collaborators, but they also deal with what is, and that's a hard thing. It's like if you say deal with what is, I might be confusing to people because like, well, sure, of course they deal with what is, but in fact, our emotions get in the way all the time, and weeds don't have emotions, so I think they would, if they could speak to us, I think they'd say, look, we don't have emotions. We see that you do. We see that they get in your way constantly. So the weeds would say to us, we don't have emotions, you do. It seems like they get in your way constantly. What we would advise to you is to let your actions lead your emotions rather than the other way around. So all of those sound really simple things. It's like buy low, sell high. So simple, and it's so hard to do. It's really hard for us to do.
Actions lead your emotions.
Yeah, let your actions
borderline impossible.
The other way around. Yeah.
Borderline impossible. When you start to think about it, it's only the most emotionally intelligent person, that unbalanced person, but so difficult. Hey, Stu, a couple of things. So first of all, I just want to say thank you so much for joining today. So you've got this energy and enthusiasm. I asked for a certain amount of your time today. I can't believe what time it is, because you just get compelled into the conversation with you. And I'm going to encourage everybody, there's a couple of books to pick up and read, How to Get a Meeting with Anyone. And that was named one of the top 64 sales books of all time. By the way, I definitely have to go back to that list and get everybody else who hasn't been on the show from that list. The latest book we've been talking about mostly today is How to Grow Your Business Like a Weed, a complete strategy for unstoppable growth. And the links to those two books are going to be in our show notes from today from Stu. Stu, how else do other people find you?
Well, what I would love to do is have you, of course, connect with me on LinkedIn. Just mention that you heard me on the show. But the other thing, though, is is that I'd love to have you come to my author site, stuheinecke.com. And when you get there, you'll be asked to sign into my list. And that's a really good idea. I would love to have you sign into my list. And the promise there is that you'll get the first 2 chapters of how to grow your business like a weed for free. But I'm writing a new report about how to cultivate and curate new unfair advantages in your business, well, really in your life, but about what's the nature of unfair advantages and how can you create new unfair advantages in yours? You need them or you can't compete. So yeah, please come and sign up.
Fantastic. I know I'll be doing that. And Stu, thank you again for joining us today. And team, thank you very much for joining the Selling Well podcast today. And if you enjoyed today's podcast, please like and subscribe to the Selling Well podcast. That really means a lot to us. So thank you. As well, you know that we run this podcast because we're looking to improve the lives of professional salespeople, and in doing so, increase the professionalism of B2B sales. If there's other things that we can be doing on the Selling Well podcast that make this more effective for you, please let us know. We're growth-oriented. We love constructive criticism. And you can send your feedback to my personal email, markcox@inthefunnel.com. markcox@inthefunnel.com. I respond to that email, and anybody who gives us a suggestion will absolutely get a note back from me. And thank you for giving those suggestions. Again, we love constructive criticism, so give us feedback. Everybody, we'll see you next time on the Selling Well podcast, and thank you for joining.